obviously, when we're talking about prolific or tremendous artists, once in a generation kind of artists, of which you can't deny that Woody Allen isn't, at a certain point, I just have enough to get over that talent and make a snap judgment.
Yeah,
I'm not.
I would argue you're not making a snap judgment though, and I guess what I would say is I don't disagree with anything you said, but we're now using that all the time. We're just making snap judgments is the norm, not the exception.
Sure. Well, I do think that we are at. We will find out. We will all wait with bated breath as to know whether or not this movement that we are currently a part of culturally is an overcorrection or just a tremor for larger correction.
Yeah.
We will see.
I've been trying to walk that line with Vero, because Vero's founder is the son of someone who was in charge of a company that did awful stuff.
Yeah.
And also Vero has Russian developers. The Russian developers is the first thing I'm like, hold on, just putting Russian in front of something doesn't make it bad.
Man, I'll tell you what.
You know who else is a Russian developer? Sergey Brin.
You want to know what? Yeah, we have our new sticker pack coming out on Stickers or DIAF tomorrow. The best art was drawn by a Russian, and it was sent to me with a Russian.
So Russian developers could mean
Vidania to that order.
Yeah, it could be fine, could be not. That doesn't mean anything. Being the son of the executive who did the horrible thing could make you complicit. You could have absolutely known everything, and that's bad. Or it could be he gave his son a title so he could pay him a salary, and he wasn't involved at all. That's also normal. We don't know. And we don't know is become like, well, if you're saying we don't know, you're defending. And I'm like, no, we don't know means we don't know. It means not for, not against. It means holding out for more information. That is a position that has disappeared, and I'm trying to reclaim it.
I did not notice that,
well, it's
that it's just me and you. Let's rock.
Yeah, Sarah's out sick. Lost her voice.
Well, get well soon, Sarah Lane.
Yeah, she will, I'm sure. All right. Shall we?
Yes.
I'm going to do this one today. Here we go.
The Daily Tech News Show is powered by its listeners, not outside organizations. If you get value from the show, consider giving a little back. As little as $1 a month keeps great tech news and analysis coming your way commercial-free. Find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Thursday, March 1st, 2018. From DTNS headquarters in Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
From Oakland, California, I'm Justin Robert Young.
And sadly, Sarah Lane lost her voice. She is out today, quietly at home. I hope, resting her voice. But our producer, Roger Chang, is here as well.
I am here. Sorry about the February.
See, you didn't have to say anything. If you hadn't said anything, no one would have known.
I knew, Tom.
And no one still knows. Like, you've said something, people are like, what do you mean sorry about the February? Is he sorry for the entire month?
In a way, yes, I am.
Apologizing that it didn't have enough days. February just always comes up short.
It does.
Especially every 4 years.
Yeah.
Habitual problem.
Every 4 years, it makes it a little farther.
Yeah.
Not quite. No, it said February at the dock. It's fine now. Let's start with a few tech things you should know. Software engineer Loretta Lee is suing Google for sexual harassment, discrimination, retaliation, and wrongful termination. Lee worked at Google for 7 years. She joins a now pattern of these sorts of lawsuits. James Damore, of course, sued Google back in January for firing him, alleging the company routinely discriminated against conservative white men. Tim Chevalier has sued Google this month earlier for discrimination, harassment, and wrongful termination after he was fired for what he says was calling out racism and sexism on internal message boards.
Hey, look, this is a very, very pressing problem here in Silicon Valley, and I believe that the lawsuits will continue to come as long as the pockets are deep. The Wall Street Journal reports that the next phase of the Nintendo Switch will not focus on updated hardware modeling, but instead will focus on peripherals. Peripheral. I always trip on that. I don't know why. That use the Switch's USB-C port. Specifically, Nintendo will focus on peripherals to keep sales high in the second year, such as the upcoming Nintendo Labo.
It feels obvious to me. Like, yeah.
I guess
It's only-
styles. Yeah, you want to know what? Another one that always gets me is kiosk or koisk.
It's kiosk.
I know, but I always want to say.
You want to say koisk? Plenty of you are going to say, I told you so about this one, but trying it is how you find things out for sure, okay? So don't be too hard on Facebook. However, Facebook has found out for sure that no, people don't want their news posts in a separate feed from their friends' posts called Explore. Facebook has now ended that experiment, which it was doing in 6 countries where it had been testing, separating out publisher content into the Explore tab. Not doing that. It's not going to do it. Bad idea, Facebook says. Didn't work.
Also a riot with the publishing industry.
Yeah, publishers are like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little more about the decline of cell phones.
Oh, Tom, the Wall Street Journal reports Bay Street Research estimates the upgrade cycle for phones has climbed from 23 months in 2014 to 31 months and is likely to stretch to 33 months by next year. Counterpoint Technology Market Research says refurbished phones is the fastest growing sector of the market, accounting for about 1 in 10 devices sold. Many people seem to be buying top-end flagship phones used a couple years after the release rather than buying them new.
Yeah, they're comparing it to the used car market now. Like most people, a lot of people buy new cars, but a lot of people will buy them a couple years old because they're cheaper.
And like new cars, there's only so often that a new technology comes in and radically changes things. And you could probably say with cars, maybe like parking assist or something like that, as it's trickled down to more mid-tier car models, could be that. And in phones, there's only so many times that you can say the real star is the camera or the real star is the screen before you're like, but my phone looks good and I take good pictures.
Almost no bezels. Microsoft launched Soundscape, an iOS app that helps blind and visually impaired users. So canes and dogs are often used to help with obstacle avoidance. Soundscape helps with things beyond obstacles, like what street you're on or what stores or restaurants are nearby. The app has 3 modes. Locate tells you where you are. You're at the intersection of X and Y street. Around Me calls out 4 points of interest near you, like what's around me? And it'll be like, oh, there's a bakery over there and your favorite dress shop's across the street. And Ahead of Me gives the name of 5 landmarks in front of you, maybe churches or other stores or things like that. Users can also set beacons that help them locate particular places. If you say like, hey, where's the cupcake shop? It'll start clicking and beeping in a way that helps you orient yourself and know when you're getting closer to that, and then calls it out. So this is great. It's the idea that I'm not just trying to get from point A to point B without running into things or walking out in front of a car. Sure. That's important, but that's what canes and dogs do. This is saying, hey, wouldn't you like to know when you're near the shop you like or what restaurants are nearby? That's something that we take for granted if you can see it.
Not only is this one of those great makes your heart swell, tech done good kinds of stories, it also brings us one step closer to something that I desperately have wanted for the past 10 years, an audio-only internet. We have all the tools there. And yes, I'm very excited that the visually impaired community can have a better sense of where they might be. But man, would I love some of these kind of features as well, specifically in cities where I don't know a lot of places, and just to get me from point A to point B without me having to dig out my phone for everything.
Listen, I'm sure the people who need accessibility options are not going to begrudge you turning this news to be about you.
Look, I'm saying it's great. It's great. It's great. And it's also something that a wider set could use.
They're like, we get plenty of accessibility stories and options, Justin. No problem.
No, I'm not. Again, I led with it's fantastic, but also I can't be alone. I can't be alone with the dream and hope for an audio only internet.
Yeah, and in all seriousness, it's the kinds of things that can help a lot of people in a lot of different situations, mostly accessibility. This is huge. You've got to watch the video that Microsoft and Guide Dogs, actually, and Lighthouse all collaborated on, showing what it's like, because if you are sighted, you will suddenly, at least for me, make you realize, oh, right, they can't just look at the street and go, okay, I'm by the post office now I'm by the haircutting place. Like that information just doesn't happen unless someone tells it to you, and that's what this app does. It's pretty cool.
Uber launched Uber Health to offer a ride-hailing platform to healthcare providers. So clinics, hospitals, rehab centers, and the like can assign rides to patients, even if the patient doesn't have the Uber app or even a smartphone. It's not unlike Uber Central, which focuses on business customers who want to provide rides for their clients. Uber Health General Manager Chris Weber says that around 3.6 million Americans miss medical appointments due to a lack of transportation.
Yeah, this is a problem that definitely people have tried to solve in lots of ways. There's senior buses and things you can call on demand, and the idea that when you make your appointment, the doctor could say, great, a car will come for you. And that's not like a crazy expensive option. It's Uber priced. Seems pretty compelling.
Certainly so. And it shows you further what it means now that ride sharing has kind of commoditized private transport. There's just this kind of thing, like you said, would usually be a white glove treatment option. But when you're, any kind of healthcare provider and you say, oh, really? It's another $6, $7, $10 maybe,
yeah,
cool, let's do it.
Although the question is, can everybody afford this? Is it insurance covered? That sort of thing.
The information on this is Uber's not going to take a cut. They just need to, the healthcare provider just needs to pay for the ride. And again, if we're looking at maybe on the upper end, $25 to make sure that somebody gets there, who knows?
Richard Apia Akoto is an ICT teacher at a rural school in central Ghana. ICT is Internet Communications Technology. ICT is also one of the subjects on a national exam that 14 and 15-year-old students in the country have to pass. Now, if you're in the capital, Accra, you got computers you can study on. Akoto's classroom does not. So he draws concepts on the blackboard. He posted a photo of himself sketching out the features of a word processing windows from Microsoft Word under his nickname Aurora Quadwo Hatesh. Comedian teacher Quadwo reposted the picture to his 140,000 Facebook fans, and it took off from there. Now, Microsoft Africa said it will give Akoto a device from one of our partners and access to our MCE program and free professional development resources at education.microsoft.com. Akoto says he has a laptop, but because the test is desktop specific, he doesn't want to use his laptop because it doesn't work to the standards of the test. He needs a device that will work to the standards of the test. So it sounds like Microsoft will give him that.
All right, Tom, just go ahead and pull it out of your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
The check that you got from Redmond. We're just doing Microsoft PR now. Microsoft is just the greatest company on earth, huh?
Look, if there's anything about this story, it's that Microsoft Africa's response was, we'll give you one device.
That's a fair point. I mean,
really?
On, guys.
How about outfit the whole classroom, please?
How about you go ahead and peel off more than one laptop that everybody can take their turns on, right?
Yeah. And the other thing I like about this story is it is rural Ghana. It's a story about rural areas and not having the equipment. This isn't, poor Africa. Granted, Africa countries often have problems like this, but this is showing like, hey, in Ghana, you've got a disparity. Ghana isn't just all the same. You've got students in Accra that definitely have access. I'm sure there's some there that don't too, but it's much different out in the countryside. And I think this is probably more common than you think, even outside of Ghana, where people have to teach computer skills on a whiteboard or a blackboard.
Oh, I mean, it's the digital divide, and we've been talking about it since the 90s.
Yeah.
AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, and Verizon have formed the Mobile Authentication Task Force. The group is focused on creating a new mobile authentication standard that might be ready by the end of the year. The new standard could replace two-factor authentication for mobile apps with a system based on cryptographically verified data, network verified information, IP address, along with some machine learning and analytics to understand your habits.
Yeah. Okay, I love the idea of making two-factor authentication better.
I was going to say, these are two of your favorite things. You love consortiums, you love open source, and you love two-factor security.
Do I love consortiums? Is that a thing?
You love it. You love it, and you always want more people to join the consortiums.
I like standards, and consortiums often.
You like open source standards.
Yeah. I could say I don't like consortiums for consortium's sake, but they often lead to open standards.
They often lead. Yes, I should clarify. Yes, consortiums for the common good.
I got a problem with this one though, because it's just the carriers and it's just mobile. This doesn't fix two-factor authentication if it only works on mobile. Now, granted, it works across platforms because all of these different carriers are part of this, right? So it's not going to only work on Verizon, but it's only going to work on mobile. And what if I'm on the web on mobile, right? Oh, wait, I have to go into the app to make this work. Or if I'm on my laptop or desktop, now I have to use the old two-factor authentication, at which point the least convenient and secure option for anything is the place where the vulnerabilities can happen.
Can I also pile on a little bit on this consortium?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm going to levy some more consortium criticism.
Uh-huh.
I think a good consortium here, you need multiple different interests that have different ways of making money, because then the fact that they're binding together for a common good or an open standard means they're really just trying to work on that. And I am in no way putting on my tinfoil hat and suggesting that these carriers, that these carriers binding together to make better security is anything other than what they are saying it is. However, I need some people that would also be theoretically up against the carrier if a law enforcement agency came and said, hey, we need this kind of data. Like I want more people involved in something as important as the future of mobile security, if it's even just that, let alone all two-factor authentications.
Yeah, granted, I didn't see the word open related to this anywhere.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of vagary around it. We don't get a lot of details from what we've seen so far about how this actually works. Now, they say it's cryptographically verified. That's awesome. Let's make it verifiable that that's strong cryptography and all of that. So there are a lot of questions around this. I can't say that I disagree with the impulse, though. The impulse is right, which is let's create a standard that makes two-factor easier, because if you make it easier, more people adopt it.
Sure. And look, Authy is a really good step in that direction. I think the Google Authenticator is a great tool. If you were listening to this and you don't have those on your phones, please do them immediately and upgrade any service that offers two-factor to do it. Listen, one day the life that is lost could be your own.
Or at least the data, yeah. Authy, Authenticator, whatever. And if you've done it, but you haven't done it in a while, I bet some of your services have added two-factor recently, and you may not have realized it. So it's always good to go back and check, too. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, you can subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines, our sister show. It is available on the Amazon Echo as a flash briefing, also available on Google Home, in the Anchor app, and as a podcast at dailytechheadlines.com. So Twitter said in a statement today, it's looking for outside experts to measure the health of the company, which immediately sent my mind towards, acquisition, strategic resources. That's a lot of times when people do this, what they mean. Maybe they do still mean that, but they're also seeking proposals to determine exactly how the company is fostering healthy debate, conversations, and critical thinking versus, quote, abuse, spam, and manipulation. CEO Jack Dorsey said in a series of tweets, "We aren't proud of how people have taken advantage of our service or our inability to address it fast enough." So, Justin Robert Young, what do you think this public castigation means?
Well, I think that you can almost time this seasonally, right? It feels like about 4 times a year that at Jack emerges and talks about the grand ideals of Twitter and how these things that you've been asking for will definitely be efforted at the fastest possible opportunity. However, this one kind of caught my eye, because as everybody knows, who's listened to the show for a little bit, I also cover politics for my political podcast, Politics. And one of the things that has come up a lot is the idea of DC coming to regulate big tech. And part of it is economics. Part of it is, hey, AT&T got broken up into the baby bells because they just had too much of the market share. And you look at companies like Amazon, but some of it is also about speech, and specifically as it relates to the 2016 election and future elections, beginning probably most notably with these off-year elections that are coming up in the fall, and then of course 2020. What I read this with that light in mind as is, look, here are steps we are taking. Here are other people you can ask about the steps we are taking to try to make efforts to create a better, healthier environment for Twitter. This calms two areas down, theoretically. Number one, the Twitter is a toxic wasteland crowd. And the other, the Twitter is easily manipulated to shift opinion. And sure, if it's something that Justin Bieber's new haircut is stupid, it's not the end of the world. But if it's the leader of the free world being elected because of manipulation on Twitter, then maybe the consequence is greater. And
the consequences definitely could be greater. The company is accepting proposals for the project until April 13th. So this doesn't seem to be some kind of strategic acquisition issue. It seems to be that Twitter really wants the public to participate, really wants the public to join in and provide solutions. So I don't think they're looking for financial companies or even consultants. They're looking for anybody. And at least they want to have the appearance of casting a wide net so they can bring a lot of different ideas in and try to help them. The company says it plans to announce the first projects in July, so they at least have a deadline and they at least have some kind of short-term ability to access this. Whoa! I can hear myself. Okay. Justin, you dropped out there for a little bit, but you're back now.
yes.
And basically all I was saying was it is not a we need consultants or we need financial companies. It is very much a we need anybody to throw us an idea, and we've got a deadline.
It is that we need anybody, and it's that look, I don't think that you can take away from this that it is a public thing, right? This is not just somebody going to rehab quietly. This is somebody making sure that they announce at Christmas time that you can come see me on the first day of February now that I go to this treatment center. They need to make a show of this because of how much people have thought that they have drugged their feet and not done things the way that they should.
I'm going to jump a little bit because if I were to sit here and think about how do you solve Twitter, I think there are plenty of things that are already being discussed that could have an effect. And of course, I'm known for saying, let's try to measure the effect. Let's test things. Let's actually look and see if they're working, not just do things that make a good headline. But I do think that one of the things that could be done is educate people how to use Twitter better. I think a lot of people get upset with Twitter or Facebook. This applies to Facebook and Instagram and everything because they don't take enough control of what they see. You have complete control of everything you see on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, right? You can block people. You can unfollow people. You can create lists. You can block words now on Twitter. But people don't use these tools. And I think even just the simple act of following or unfollowing makes a tremendous difference. And I say this not to point fingers. I say this because during the presidential election, I was getting very stressed out, as everybody was, about some of the things I was seeing in my timeline. And suddenly I realized, well, wait a minute. Most of these things are being retweeted by this one person. So I unfollowed that person. Suddenly I was like, it's so much better. I also curate that now. I more actively say, oh, wait a minute. I'm not going to think of unfollowing as an insult. I'm going to think of unfollowing as, oh, that's something I don't need to see. And I don't have a lot of the problems that I hear other people have. Now, that may be because I'm insane or jaded. But I do think that it's an element of the strategy that needs to be emphasized, which is, hey, there's things you can do too. Don't expect Twitter to solve everything.
Yes, and if the tools are not being utilized by enough of your user base that you consistently have these problems, are they effective enough tools? Are there other steps that the platform itself can take?
Absolutely.
Now, I agree with you, but even if this is just Jack and Twitter going out and saying, hey, look, we want people to measure the health of our conversations, and these organizations come back and say, you want to know what? Congratulations, we've done some algorithmic tweaking, but otherwise, here's our 15-page study about how these conversations are not as bad as you might think. Then Twitter will take that. They literally just need to be shown. They need to be shown going to the gym.
Yeah, no, and that's actually one of my fears, is that this ends up being more of an exercise in public demonstration than in seriously trying to fix things, because I think there's some interesting things around machine learning that could prompt you like, hey, you seem to be getting stressed about these particular posts. Would you like to mute them temporarily to see if that makes a difference? Like, kind of help people learn how to manage this stuff. So.
You seem to be responding in all caps to this one account over and over again.
Would you like me to mute them for you temporarily and see if that helps you calm down? All right, let's check the mailbag. Got a great email today from Alan. It says, I don't know if you'll want to talk about this on the show. Well, guess what? I do. But it blew my mind when I saw this today, and I wanted to share it with you. Go to the App Store and download an app called Living Wine Label. Now, granted, these are not the only folks doing this, but this is the one Alan pointed out to me. So it's the first one I've used. Apparently, there's a bunch of these. Run the app and point it at the picture of a wine bottle he sent along. Now, the coolest part about this email was the picture of the wine bottle was of a type of wine that I had in my... I have 2 bottles of wine. We had 2 bottles of wine out. One of them was these. And so I'm like, well, I don't have to point it at the picture. I'm going to point it to the actual bottle. So you point it at the bottle, and it makes the picture on the bottle of wine come alive in augmented reality and tell you a little story. Now, I tried it out on Facebook Live, and it took some fiddling to get it to actually work. Probably would have been easier if I hadn't been trying to film it while I was doing it. But once you got it to work, though, it actually, it did have a little story and stuff. It was kind of nifty, I guess. I don't know.
So they're working with the label people, or are they doing all this themselves?
Yeah, so they have partners. There were several different bottles of wine. I didn't do enough research to find out if all those bottles are part of the same winery. Sometimes there's multiple labels out of one winery, of course. Chateau St. Jean was on there. 19 Crimes was the one that I had. And there was a Walking Dead wine. I didn't even know there was a Walking Dead wine. So those were all the ones that you could point the labels at. Obviously, they had either worked with that winery or worked with multiple wineries to say, we'll recognize your label and be able to prompt something.
I'll tell you what, seems like a money-making opportunity.
Yeah. I don't know what the effect is, though. I mean, I agree with Alan. It was super cool when it actually worked to be like, oh, look, my wine bottle's talking to me, and I haven't even had any yet.
Yeah, it also kind of screams like, buy me. Hey, gigantic winery or a beverage company. Wouldn't it be great if you got our team and all of our smart people on your team?
I suppose that's the gamble is I'll buy one of these bottles to try it out, and then maybe I'll like the wine and start buying it regularly. I already had this bottle. So
I think the app is an acquisition. I think that this makes a lot more sense as an InBev purchase where they can do a Super Bowl ad about like, download the app and point it at your Budweiser.
Sure. Yeah.
Schumer, do a backflip.
I don't know if you're old enough, but back in my day when I was a kid, to go to the zoo, they would have these little audio boxes to listen to the various aspects of the animals exhibits, but you had to buy a key to listen to it. You had to buy like a special key. And I'm wondering if they could integrate that in a way like, hey, if you go with our premium brands, you get all this additional cool stuff that goes with it, which would be kind of cool.
Roger, you're younger than me.
Yes.
But I do.
Did you not have the keys? Did you have the keys?
We did. I remember the St. Louis Zoo had a push button. You didn't have to have a key. You just push the button and it would talk.
Oh.
And it would tell you things. But yeah, I think this is kind of cool, and it's definitely an advance on what you were talking about, Roger.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think that there's a tremendous amount that you can do with stuff like this, and I have not seen the demos, but if the demos are cool and worth it, and you get something out of it, I think that wine education is something that is still in this day and age with nothing but information sorely lacking. Like, there's a great wine shop that is around the corner from us, and I always love going there because I always learn something. And then the next time I walk into that wine shop, I have no idea what none of these things mean, and I just picked a pretty label.
Now, granted, like I said, I was filming this when I did it, but it took me it was fiddly to get to work. And then once it worked, it was just the guy on the label telling me stories about being an ancient Irishman or something. It didn't tell me anything about the wine. It was just totally for the effect of like, oh, wow, the label came alive.
Yeah. Oh.
Hey, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com and at facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. Sarah Lane will be back tomorrow, we hope. So send her your well wishes. In the meantime, thank you, Justin Robert Young.
Listen, Tom, it is always a pleasure being here. And I would like to thank all the listeners who purchased tickets to my live show tonight. In San Francisco. You might be listening to my dulcet tones on the way to the Piano Fight Theater in San Francisco. The Politics presents Sex Scandal Brackets live show will be in a few hours here in the city by the bay. But hopefully we will do another one because it is sold out. And I want to thank any DTNS listeners. Please come up and say hello after the show.
Is there a secret word that you can say if you're a DTNS listener to you to make yourself known to you?
Yeah, just tell me, isn't Microsoft great?
Excellent. All right. Thanks, folks, for supporting us on Patreon. We ended up with something like 19 more patrons than last year, or 16.
Yeah.
16 more patrons than last month. So let's keep that going. We've got a milestone that we want to hit to add some more roundtables, and I know a bunch of you guys like the roundtables. So please keep that support coming at patreon.com/DTNS. And if you're looking for things, we got things and stuff. New hoodies, new shirts, new t-shirts, a t-shirt designed by Len Peralta based on one of the posters he drew live during Daily Tech News Show. Go check out all the new colors and new styles at dailytechnewsshow.com/store. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 21:30 UTC. It's going to be changing coming up soon. Find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. Back tomorrow with Brian Brushwood. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Well, folks, what should we call this fine show? Roger?
We should call it a show. No.
The show.
A show without lane.
Thanks for getting that one out of the way.
Stay out of your lane. Or stay.
Twitter, Toxic or Tonic. That's a 3T threat. There it is. Cheaper to keep it. Switch up to those.
W. Scott is one is like changing soon. What's changing soon? I meant UTC will change soon because we'll go on daylight saving time, but UTC stays the same. So.
Consortiums for the common
sweeping
good.
Twitter right now. The Pew Research Center is officially drawing their lines in the sand when it comes to generational definitions. Starting today, Pew Research will define millennials as those born between 1981 and 1996. We will consider those born from 97 onward as a post-millennial generation, a as yet undefined post-millennial generation.
Gen Z. Still seeking a name.
Well, what happens when you run out of letters? Tweeting for help. I like Twitter, Toxic or Tonic, but that might be too caustic.
No, I kind of like that one. What do you think there, Justin?
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Let it be written, or so.
So let it be typed.
So wait, then so Gen X is still 69 to 80 then?
I would guess, yeah, or right up to 80.
I thought it was more like mid 60s, but people define these differently too. That's.
I mean, I guess you would be, Gen X is whatever.
I'm firmly Gen X. I'm like right in the middle.
Are you?
Of that club sandwich.
What year were you born?
74.
See, I was born in 1970.
I was born in an age when California started cracking down on car emissions. I don't know a world before.
I was born in
but-
an age when people started cracking down on the president lying about things.
I've been reading about the 1956, was it 56 Senate election campaign of Richard Nixon in California.
Wait, he was vice president in 56, wasn't he?
No. Oh, shoot. I guess it must have been 52. Ah, gosh darn it. I got to look it up.
Yeah.
He was president. Yes.
He was Eisenhower's.
He was Eisenhower's VP.
Everyone liked Ike. They liked Nixon less.
Somehow.
But Nixon could use chopsticks.
Nixon was elected to the Senate. Oh, in 1950. Was a U.S. Senator to California in a campaign that not only minted one of his most famous lines, where he called his opponent pink right down to her underwear, in reference to her being soft on communism.
She's pink right down to her underwear.
Also earned him the ire of the governor, who coined the phrase.
What's going on with your audio?
Yeah, it's garbly.
I don't know. I can drop. It's the internet today.
All right, I want to hear more about. I almost said I want to hear more about pink underwear, but
about Nixon, about Nixon's.
but she literally wore pink underwear. I mean, that's not an uncommon thing to wear pink underwear.
Probably not. A bit of a gendered slur, though.
Yeah,
Is right against a woman.
It was which 50? Was it 1950?
That was the 1950 election to
okay.
the Senate.
Mm.
Let's see. Congressional. Began to get he ran against Helen Goggin Douglas.
Mm-hmm.
It was run with a lot of hard on communism rhetoric that kind of took him. He was the underdog, and he wound up.
Let me just rephrase. It was run with a lot of rhetoric that was hard on communism.
Yes.
Okay. True. And it was the first time that he was called Tricky Dick.
Oh, really? That was the first time?
First time. It was the governor of California, I believe another Republican, who coined it.
Tricky Dick.
You know,
born in Yorba Linda.
What if you did entire tech podcasts with just the Nixon impersonation?
I think it would get old pretty quick.
I think it would. Yeah, it would get. Here's what I am doing. I'm doing research for this thing I want to do about the 1960 election, and I'm reading a lot about this era that Tom and I kind of joke a lot about. So I'm just sending private news sources.
You're fading out again.
Sorry.
I'm glad that this didn't happen during the show, though.
Or is it faded?
Say it again.
Is it garbly or faded, or is it fine? What is
it's weird. It's like it's muting you.
It's like you have a compressor. You don't have an audio compressor, do you?
No, no, he doesn't.
It's
one more time.
Yeah, I
You're
don't
fine
know
now.
I don't know what is happening. It's
oh.
on my end.
I think that the spirit of Richard Nixon doesn't want us talking about this.
Oh, I know. Oh, no.
Do you follow Richard Nixon on Twitter?
I don't know.
There's a excellent Richard Nixon account on Twitter.
Does he? Is it like talking about things that are happening?
Is
now?
it like
He talks about current events as if he were Richard Nixon, but also makes allusions to his era. You know, B.B. Rebozo would have never allowed that to happen.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was what I texted Tom. I give Tom a private news feed of my 1960 trivia, including about Bebe Rebozo.
Bebe. Which made me go look up. I don't know if you saw my tweet. I went up and tried to find out if anyone was doing a Bebe Rebozo Twitter. Sadly, no.
Deep cut. I always knew that. What's it called? That Nixon had a South Florida tie, but I didn't realize it was that.
It was him. Yeah. I didn't realize Rebozo was from South Florida either. I don't know why that didn't sink in.
It's interesting because in the Wikipedia for Charles Rebozo, it says Bebe means baby in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
That was his nickname. Yeah, he was the youngest son, and so he was the Bebe.
The baby face.
Yeah.
Bebe. When I would read about Nixon, which I have done more than I would like to admit, I used to pronounce it in my head Beeb. I had no idea.
Oh, you didn't know it was Bebe.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I texted to Tom was that Nixon did not have a lot of friends. He was not a very warm person with those around him, but Bebe was one of his closest. And two notable things. Number one, he first found out about the Watergate break-in while swimming in Bebe's pool.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, their favorite thing to do together was sit in a room and not talk.
What did they do? Play mind games?
Silence together. They were both very stoic men. Bebe of a family, a stoic family, Nixon of a California Quaker stoic.
It's crazy to think that Nixon was a Quaker.
Yeah, apparently a big scandal in the family.
Mm-hmm. Well, folks, I think we're going to head out of here. But thank you for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
It's a great... And we'll see you tomorrow with Brian Brushwood.
What a hack.